All right, we are live.
I now call to order the EdTech meeting of November 6th, 5 p.m. Will the clerk please take roll call?
Commission Member Warner,
Here.
Commission Member Case,
Here.
Commission Member Congleton,
Here.
Commission Member Peck,
Here.
and Commission Member Moorhead.
Here.
We do have a quorum.
Okay, did anyone submit a public comment in advance?
I did not receive any comments, and there is no one in the attendees list.
Okay,
And also, Commission Member Lean has asked to be excused.
thank you. We'll now move on to the consent agenda. Are there any items that anyone would like removed from the consent agenda? Okay, do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I motion to approve.
And a second?
I'll second that.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. The motion is passed. There are no guest presentations. We move to the action agenda. 4.01 draft 2024 capital facility plan.
Okay, thank you. This item was introduced at the last monthly meeting, so now it's going for approval of this body. We try to get recommendations from all the advisory commissions that have components in the capital facility plan before it elevates up to the council level. So in looking at this, you will see that there is a draft ordinance, and then there's essentially two iterations of documents to look at. The initial draft document up first, that's what I would call the Cliff's Notes iteration of the capital facility plan. And then the booklet form goes a lot more detailed and is over 90 pages if folks want to peruse that. But then going through everything, I'll mainly stick for brevity's sake into the Cliff's Notes iteration of the plan. As you'll notice in the Cliff's Notes one, it has name of the projects, and then the status is key. So status, pretty much anything in the light green means it's budgeted, and then orange means it's planned. And then you'll see the year budget, which means year first budget, and then prioritization, which there's three priorities. High means it really needs to happen no matter what. Medium is really dependent upon the economic situation we're in, and that allows us some wiggle room if headwinds change. And then low means it's really driven by grants, and if something goes south on that, that likely it'll be delayed for some time. So really the first year for fiscal year 2024 is more in concrete, and then the other 5 years are for planning purposes. And as you go further to the right in the spreadsheet, how is the project funded? That basically shows you the estimated split for the projects. And really going over this spreadsheet, I'll just go over the ones that have some element of action for this upcoming fiscal year, since the other other years merely are for planning purposes. So for the administration community development side, there's some money for ADA sidewalk compliance in there. Some of the sidewalk immediately adjacent to the ramp outside City Hall here doesn't meet the ADA compliance, the most recent iteration of that. So we do need to improve that. And then also next year, we have the start of the City Hall Sallyport conversion. So for those that haven't been around long, back in the olden days, that when the City Hall was designed, the police department used to be on this side of the building, and the police administration was separate from the patrol officers. Over the last several years, we moved everyone into the common building that's like right behind City Hall, and we moved community development over here. But the Sallyport and the old jail cells, for instance, when folks are jailed, we have an interlocal with the county where they're jailed. So all that needs to be updated for office space, because right now we have folks working out of the closets, and even a break room's been converted to an office, so we're packed to the gills in here. And then also a minor addition out to the street. In fact, when you look at the old as-built drawings for this building, originally the structure was supposed to go out to College Avenue, and then they pared it down for budgetary reasons over 30 years ago. So basically, we're bringing to fruition what was proposed 30 years ago. So that's a key project. As we move to the fire department, a lot of the cost there is just upgrading what we have. So we have a regional fire training tower where we'll be providing year 3 of our match of the project. It's shared by District 4, and then also the city of Walla Walla. And then there's costs in there for fixing an exterior staircase, dorm rooms, and dorm room furniture. This gets to be really important because how our fire department functions is that we have a limited staff of essentially 6 full-time personnel that support a cadre of volunteers, and a number of them actually live in the firehouse. So our firehouse is actually a certified dorm for the university, so we're able to keep our costs down that way. But we need to make sure it's an appropriate place for them to want to live at. So that's key to keep our volunteer numbers up. Then as we get into the police department, the big thing there is we have some costs there to do a facilities study to determine what the future needs are for the department, because the call volumes, they have continued to go up. And the thing to keep in mind is usually when you have a police department facility, it's usually hardened, given the fact that it's dealing sometimes with criminal element, things of that sort. So security. Thing is, our building right here, that formerly was apartments, and then a previous incarnation, it was a mechanic shop. So not really designed for that sort of function. So we'll be doing a study to determine truly what is the need. And then all the other costs past the year are just estimates. We'll have a more final number once the study's actually complete. Going to the parks element of the budget here, really the big heavy lift is finally Lions Park. The federal and state agencies have finally all signed off on everything, so it is out to bid right now, and we plan to award the bid the meeting in December. So the plan of action there is to finally go to construction on everything all through the spring and summer. So that way it'll be reopened by the end of the summer. What this is going to trigger, though, is the improvement we need to do at Kiwanis Park, and that's in process. But we essentially have to put in some electrical and re-roof the gazebo at the park adjacent to Davis school because that is where Movies at the Park and the Farmers Market will be moving to next year, because we tried to have it here this year when we thought it was moving forward, and in general the community had a cow over that, so it needs to be in a park. And then the third park project is Veterans Park. So this will merely be the engineering component of that. So they'll deal with a pickleball court, basketball court, and a restroom. And that park is out at the Homestead subdivision out to the west. As we get to stormwater, there's a litany of projects there. A lot of them are grant dependent, and we're really playing catch up in this utility because up until 2019, we did not have a stormwater utility and really dabble with it, but the state told us we needed to, so now we're playing catch up. The decant facility, that's basically equipment to clean up our street sweeper and make sure everything is separated from the water it picks up. So engineering is slated on that for next year. Birch between 4th and 6th, reconstruction of that corridor. So engineering is slated for that. And then dry wells, that's a cost-effective way of essentially pumping in stormwater into the shallow aquifer. And we had a study done to essentially back up doing that in the area around College Avenue. So we're slowly installing those to mitigate stormwater. And then the public works yard, we also have some money in there for stormwater improvements there. There is a natural creek that runs through there, and it isn't really properly treated, and it needs to be. And then Northwest Earl off of Whitman, that one, it would be engineering for the stormwater. And as I mentioned, all these projects, for brevity's sake, I'm reading it off the off of the spreadsheet. But if you're curious as to pictures, maps, and the like, that's all in the booklet. And then 10th Street, so right off of College Avenue, engineering on that. That is the last block at 10th that has no curb and gutters, so it just sheet drains right into Garrison Creek. We need to change that, so that will fix that. And then the urban forestry grant, we end up getting about $730,000 to put trees on Whitman by Martin Airfield, Majania Road by the new development, and then 12th, so that accounts for that. As we go into the streets function, you'll see the chip seal program, and that is the program that puts the little rocks on the street, and that seals it and gets about another 10 years of useful life out of the road. We have a litany of streets around Autumn Meadows and Sherburne area, and then Northwest Evans, north of where we patch, that would be dealt with. And then the block resurfacing compared to previous years, you will see that the number of streets has really doubled there. And what that is taken into account is that council's currently grappling with that transportation benefit district and passing the 0.1% sales tax. That way we can actually fix the local roads in a timely manner and get down the number of years it would take to reconstruct everything, which right now would be over 200 years. So we're trying to lower that some. So you'll see in that block resurfacing, if that passes council, the TBD element, we would basically be positioning 2 parts of roadways to get reconstructed every year, and then 2 have engineering, which would be good. Then on page 4, getting into the Safe Walk project, same thing. Having the transportation benefit district would bump up our ability to start getting a sidewalk at least on one side of every public road in College Place. So position about 2 blocks for construction, a new sidewalk, and another 2 blocks of engineering. Then getting past that project, we have Majanier Road, positioning that for reconstruction. We're having a engineering open house on that this Wednesday at 5 p.m. But next year will be a lot of right-of-way acquisition, and then getting it out to bid so we could begin reconstructing that. Crosswalk improvements at the post office. This will happen by the springtime. We got a state grant to do this. So curb bump outs and just making sure that crosswalk is much safer than it is at the moment. So that'll be fully wrapped up by next spring. East-West Road, this would be a new road that would get across the new development across from the high school. Developer would pay for most of it, but then I have an element of our tax increment financing district that would pay for the part to get across the front property. Then next one's Northeast College Place active transportation project. We ended up getting a state grant for this. So this would reconstruct Damson between Rose and Cargill. So it would have curb and gutter and utilities underneath replaced. But then also Rose Street between Cary Court and Lambert, that would be road dieted to match what Walla Walla is doing, because Walla Walla is fixing up their portion of Rose Street to go from the 1 lane each way with a center turn lane and bike lanes and sidewalk. So essentially it would match theirs. Otherwise, if we left it in the current condition, you'd go from 3 or 4 back to 3 lanes, and that would just be weird. So the state grant's covering that portion. And then we're also doing a facility study for our public works yard. Our current public works yard is a bunch of converted chicken coops from the 1940s. So I'll just say the past workforce didn't mind that, but as people are retiring and we're getting new folks, they do mind it. So that becomes an employee retention issue at that point. Then getting into Autumn Meadows, that subdivision, they petitioned for the city to take over the infrastructure, and they formed a local improvement district to do so, where they'd pay for it. So we're going to be fixing the roadways down there, get it up to city standard. And then there's some little minor things we're proposing to do as well. Ash Street by the university, fixing some lane markings out there just so it's more conducive for the university students and Davis School students. Lamperti Wall, this is at College Avenue in Lamperti. There is a very high retaining wall, and over a number of years, increasingly more and more cars get into situations that are going over said retaining wall. So we need to put a guardrail to prevent that, because it's a drop into someone's backyard. And then also Whitman and Home Depot commercial intersection, we need to do an engineering study. And this would be dependent on development, but what has currently happened is, I'll just say our neighboring jurisdiction is being very nitpicky about entrances and exits off of Myra Road. And so a very nice large scale development doesn't go south. We may need to convert one of the intersections on Whitman Drive behind Home Depot into a traffic circle, so that way there's full movement into the site to the south. So that is why we have that project inserted. That's relatively new compared to years past, mainly because of the new conditions. And then getting into the next utility, that would be the wastewater. We have $5 million slated for that. We're in the middle of phase 1, which is state ordered improvements. So that would take care of the first part of that, which is changing out newer equipment. Lift station number 5, that is a lift station on Southwest First off of Academy Way. That's a coffee can contraption in the middle of a sidewalk. And we've had folks injured over there, and it's really dangerous to get into. So actually changing that out for a normal lift station. And then we would rebuild the road over there too, to include sidewalks. And then neighborhood sewer line in the State Department of Ecology, they've extended a funding offer where we're able to get through about 10 years worth of sewer lining. And so they'll really step things up on our system integrity. And then for the last utility, the water, well number 7, that would be a new well on Southwest Teal near the newer development going across from the high school, but would also backfill the entire system. And we're doing that because even with the new wells we re-drilled to replace the 2 failed ones, that has only got us back to where we were when I first started. And meanwhile, our population's gone up about 3,000 people. So we need an additional source. Then the storage tank reservoir, this is being funded by Public Works Trust Fund, but then we are going to every funding source imaginable to fund the construction of this. Our big issue for a city of our size, we need additional water storage. So through that malfunction we had last year, we realized we had a little more than 24 hours of water storage. A lot of cities are in the 48 to 72. So we need to step that up. And currently we're engineering to have a water tower out by the wastewater treatment plant. Right now we don't have any water storage sites in the western part of town, so that would help. But as you can see, construction on that is estimated at like $15 million. So it's going to be a hybrid of developer contribution and then a lot of grants. And through our federal lobbyists, we actually got it included in the Federal Army Corps of Engineers like spending bill nationally. So if that goes all the way through, that would actually fund 75% of it. So we get pretty close to being all the way there. Reservoir for transmission main, this basically would fund getting the main underneath Majanier Road, so that way we don't have to dig up a brand new road, because we need that to link together the new well, the new reservoir to the rest of the system via Majanier. Well number 3, that is the well over by Lamperti and Larch. We're trying to position that so we can get an electrical generator out there. Luckily, our new wells have generators, but that well, which carried us through our water crisis when we were down to a well and a half, believe it or not, does not have a generator. So we need to make sure that happens. And then the last project, we finally got the grant agreement from the state and then got asked by council. But this would deal with seismically retrofitting the existing water tower, the steel one right over here. And that's a big issue because we don't really have a ton of as-built drawings of that water tower. In fact, it predates the city being a city. So we need to retrofit it. That really wasn't, we don't think, designed for like earthquakes or movements or anything. And we've had them before since the 2 wells got sheared. So we need to retrofit that and also repaint that because the paint job on that is from years ago as well. And likely that water tower will have to be tented when that happens, because while the inside paint is all good and current, that outside stuff is like from way back when you had like lead-based paint and stuff. So it'll have to be tented. But the FEMA is paying for 90% of that, so that's a good deal. So in total, the aggregate of capital for next year is just shy of $33 million. So that is the Cliffs Notes iteration of this. Any questions, comments, or concerns?
If there
I
are no-
don't have
Yeah.
any.
Thanks, Doug. Last chance for questions. Okay, can we get a motion to recommend the fiscal year 2024 to 2029 capital facilities plan to council?
So moved.
Can we have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, that motion is passed. Alright. The next item. The letter of support for federal EDA Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy grant, Mr. Rizzatello.
Okay, thank you. Basically, I just need a letter of support from this commission to go after this grant. The Economic Development Administration is actually one of the agencies we want to go to for grant money for the big reservoir out by the treatment plant. The issue is that originally we were under the perspective that the plan the port does every year would count as like this comprehensive economic development strategy that the EDA requires to get their grant money, and it turns out it doesn't. And then the economic development element of our comprehensive plan actually does, but the issue is that they have expiration dates on the federal level and they actually don't tie to the expiration dates that the state has. So when you update a comprehensive plan in the state, they're good for every 8 years, but for the federal EDA, for funding, the economic development element for them times out after 6 years. So naturally, knowing our luck, the economic development element that we have in our currently adopted plan is timing out basically next month. So we need to get that updated. The EDA, they have a grant that'll essentially you'll pay to update it, to do it under the SEDS format. So that way we can qualify once again for those funds. I just need a letter of support, and a draft is already in board docs in order to pursue that and get the money. So
Questions for Mike? So this motion is to allow the chair to
Yeah.
sign the letter of support for the SEDS grant.
yeah.
Can I have a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion. This is Doug.
Thanks, Doug. Second.
I'll second.
Thank you. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion is passed. On to the staff reports, community grant program.
Okay, thank you. So this process we developed is more so an orderly way to get out money into the community, because in years past, various nonprofits or partners with the city would at random times ask us for funds, and depending upon what time of the year or what fund would pay for it, money may or may not be available. So to create an orderly program, whenever the budget gets adopted by city council, we basically have a bucket of money that community related projects can go into, and nonprofits and such can essentially fill out an application and then see what happens. So you'll see in the form that is provided. There's various program goals related around civic engagement, health, environment, social network, park and recreation, economic development, and housing. Projects that have been funded in the past includes some work by the Center for Humanitarian Engagement up by the university. In fact, a little part of the theater rehab over at Walla Walla Valley Academy. That's another one. And then even some recreation activities over at Sunbridge. So that's just a little bit of a flavor. And then once we get the applications, and then there's usually an ad hoc committee made up of someone from each of our advisory committees that essentially will rank the proposals out and then turn in those grades to city council, and then the money gets awarded as such. So before, just since we're getting near the time where the budget hopefully will get adopted by council, I just want to make sure that folks on our respective commissions are good with the verbiage on the application. So if anyone has concerns or thoughts about that, now would be the opportunity. And then also past that, if anyone from this commission would want to volunteer for the ad hoc group that grades the proposals.
So the total allotment will be determined at what point?
At the time that budget gets adopted by city council, which ends up being their business meeting in December. And last year it was about $15,000. It goes up or down depending upon the budgetary situation.
Yeah, I'd be happy to be part of the
Okay,
committee.
thank you.
Hey, any more questions for Mike about the community grant program? Okay. The creative district report, Mike.
Okay, thank you. So this has fallen off the radar for some time. So I just wanted to, at least in the public lexicon of the commission, so I want to make sure just providing update on this. So we had the outreach meetings all through the summertime. The state with their process, they made the lead entity to have to turn in another letter of interest. So that has been turned in by Art Walla. I will note the maps from the original delineations of the past have changed somewhat. Originally, when we were looking at doing this, you had a lot of College Place in there, and then originally the district went all the way out to community college. The state has very tight, they have very tight requirements about what they want to see, and just because you aren't in the geographic district doesn't mean you aren't part of it. You're still a partner of it. But if you click on the GIS document, you'll see the current map. And what it does is a lot of it is tied to our transit route because we're trying to sell that it's a cohesive joint district. So it basically starts out in College Place at 12th and College. It goes out to Lions Park, but then it covers all of the downtown area along College Avenue and then around the university campus encompassing Kiwanis Park and then also Walla Walla Valley Academy. Then it goes up Rose Street to include essentially near where Graphic Apparel is at, the Foundry, Powerhouse Theater, Whitman College, and there's a little leg that jumps up and covers the little theater. We're really trying to get this designation because it opens up a lot of grant and then also small business grant opportunities opportunities, both through federal, National Endowment of the Arts, and then also State Department of Commerce. So I believe the timeline we are on for this is that both cities in concert with Art Walla have to pass another resolution saying we're doing this. I'm expecting that'll be at it for us on our end, the December business meeting. And then City of Walla Walla would be in a similar time frame. And then the entire application gets turned in from Art Walla, which is a nonprofit that would act as the main entity supervising this, to Arts Washington. And then essentially in the winter time, Arts Wa, they have a staff group that essentially grades proposals, and then they have a board of folks across the state that ultimately make a motion whether or not to accept the creative district or not. So I believe by the springtime, we would know if we are certified or not. And that would open up a whole host of opportunities, both programmatic and fiscal, for arts and such. So that is the update as it stands now. Any questions?
Thanks, Mike. Winterfest update, Ms. St. Clair.
Hi, so Winterfest this year in the Lighted Parade is going to be on December 7th. For the first time since 2019, the Fire Department Bay will be open for Winterfest Bazaar from 4 to 6 p.m. There'll be a tree lighting ceremony with Mayor Hernandez at 5:30. The parade will start at 6, and then there'll be a fireworks show right after the parade, and that'll be sponsored by Columbia REA. We're currently accepting vendor applications and parade entry forms, and they're due to City Hall by Wednesday, November 30th.
Fantastic. Thank you. On the November development update, Mike.
Okay, thank you. So I'll just provide an update over key projects we're working on, both commercial, industrial, and residential. And for ones where we can say who they are, we put the name. If we can't, then we put a project code name. So going for the commercial element, Project Inspire, that's another fast food tenant that's going in the front of the building where Chipotle is at. So we are expecting a building permit after them to improve, to get going on that. And that'd be like a sandwich tenant up there. So that'll be good. Burger King, that'll wrap up sometime next month. So we'll have that right over next to Aspen Dental. Project Cobble. This one is one of the tenants that would be over behind the Home Depot. And that is a fairly large hotel with a conference convention center. And that's why the transportation movement and getting a traffic circle is important. Otherwise, it could implode the whole thing. So we're currently working through that. And then another project that we are in discussions with that would adjoin that site would be Project Bullseye. And the Bullseye one, that's another big box tenant, large big box tenant, and they have purchased an option for that site. So we're very intrigued at that. But again, this whole traffic circle thing looks, and the lack of additional access off Myra is tending to plug up stuff. So we're probably gonna have to step in with the whole traffic circle thing and make sure we don't lose it. Project OPH. That is a breakfast restaurant, and that is tied to the hotel. So it's depending on the hotel happening. So we continue to have discussions with them. Project Q, that would actually be for the campus of Walla Walla University. So that's a national fast food franchise, and they're looking at entering the area. And our partners at the university have been having good discussions at getting that finalized. So they'll put additional activity on College Avenue, which is great. Project Y, this again is for the Whitman and Myra site. This is a regional grocer, and they are currently working through various requirements for the options. So that looks very interesting because that side of the city does lack grocery. Project MP, this is another hotel. And it looks like this would go over by where Hop Thief is at. And basically the property owners there at play sponsoring this from a fiscal level, but it is a chain. Project Red. This is for a commercial area in front of like the lakeside development, and there's ongoing communications and negotiations between this broker and the landowner. Project FM is frankly in a similar spot. Their big thing is they're waiting to commit until they start seeing the rooftops pop up out of the lakeside development. So we're a little bit on hold there. Project C, that's a large wholesaler. They're being very cagey. They continue doing due diligence, and where this bullseye thing is at, I think it would be either the bullseye or the Project C. The bullseye looks like it's a little more solid. Project C, I'm a little worried about us potentially losing them a Hermiston just because the state has more incentives over there for bigger boxes like that. Project Flight, that's over by Martin Airfield, and the owner of that is Tarragon, and we're working with them on future planning. The airport is being preserved and improved, but then they're also doing basically like aeronautical, aerospace related light industrial next to it. So we're working with them on all that planning. Project Arches, they actually want another location out this way. So they're in the valley. So they're deciding exactly where to go. Likely it looks like it'd be near the high school, but that remains to be seen. On the residential side, Homestead, Hayden Homes still has the last phase to go, and we're basically waiting on them to give an inclination on when they're going for the Y size portion. That's on Dones by where the detention basin is at. We believe we'll see something likely spring of next year. Villages of Fort Walla Walla, if you go out there, you'll see that area fenced already. So the grading, they are getting near completion on the grading, but because of temperature and other components, I would not expect to see buildings pop out of the ground until the springtime. But then at the spring, they want to do a big like groundbreaking ceremony. So once I hear from them when, you'll all be invited to that. But that's going to be the 180 units of apartments, and they'll go on the back portion of the property by Home Depot. Sermon development, that's up on Spitzenberg. They've removed some of the brush, and we have approved plans, just waiting for them long ago. Lakeside College Holdings development. This is the former Craig Christensen property off of Majanier Road. We are expecting a formal application on that, likely early next year, and as for a number of single-family structures and multifamily structures, and it's significant. And they'll be going through the master plan development hearing examiner process. Villages of Garrison Creek, this is the last phase that I've always referred to as the donut hole, because that's the last part that hasn't been done in the middle of that development. So it has changed ownership from when it was originally conceived. The donut hole phase is owned by someone that's doing it now, owned by a group of people, but one of them has done a lot of work in the valley, and I'll just couch it that way. way. But we believe the infrastructure will be going in very soon, and then the homes will pop up. For that last phase, that'll be about an additional 70 homes in there. Vesper project, you see that right across the street, basically. They just are doing work in the inside. I would expect that to probably wrap up in a month or two, and that's 24 apartments right over here. Then going to the last page, Deer Meadows at Southwest 12th, and that's as you're heading out of town. If you look north, it's a large property that has been platted for some newer homes, and basically if like Davis Avenue were to go all the way through, it would go down there. And we believe construction will start soon on that. Martin Airfield, that is now fully annexed into the city. We are working with them on the future. We know the airport itself is going to be preserved and updated, but likely to the south of it, there'll be a residential component. So we're working with them on exactly what does that look like. And then the last one is Salerno Estates, and that is some single family homes on the south side of the Southwest 12th Street. And we're working with the developer engineer on some issues, but that would basically be 8 homes on half-acre sites. And they'll serve as like a buffer between the urbanized area going out to the rural county. So that gives you a flavor of what is going on that we can divulge. Any questions?
Thanks, Mike. The next report is on Veterans Day.
Yep. So the city co-sponsors this event with the Downtown Walla Walla Foundation. So Mayor Hernandez has issued a proclamation for this. But basically the parade, the Walla Walla Valley Veterans Day Parade, that'll be 11 a.m. In downtown Walla Walla along Main Street. So please attend if you are able.
Thank you. And lastly, the Walla Walla Valley Tourism event.
Yep. So I want to make sure that we have College Place representation to this. So Visit Walla Walla, up until about a year ago, the state didn't fund tourism at all. In fact, we were the only state in the country not to have a tourism agency. And then since that time, they have created one. And now they're giving out these large grants to destination marketing agencies, typically one a year, to develop a tourism plan and exactly what are the flavors of what your tourism is to make sure that it's diverse and not just one thing. So this year, Visit Walla Walla, they've received one of those grants. It's very large. So as you can see in this document, there's a QR code to register, but they're going to be having networking events, and then they'll be having drill downs on certain elements of tourism at various dates throughout November, December, and January. So if you're able, please attend one of those events, because I think it's important that there's representation besides just like Walla Walla, because that destination marketing agency is supposed to represent essentially the whole valley. So.
Great. Thank you, Mike. All right. The next meeting is set for December 4th, 2023. Can I get a motion to conclude tonight's meeting?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. If there's no objection, tonight's EdTech meeting is now concluded at 5:48.